Welcome to the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. We are all about freedom on this show and everything that it means. So this felt like a really fitting episode, and I kind of love that we're doing this on a property podcast, but this is all about travelling Europe in a motorhome. I hear it being so many people's dreams to say that they want to get a van and travel Europe. And so here's a practical episode about how you actually do that, how we've made it happen, how you finance it, what the upsides and downsides are, and how to stop dreaming and start doing. So here's myself and Dave in the Moho in the French Alps, sharing exactly how you can do the same. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the French Alps.
Made it to the skiing.
We've just got
once
back
again
from a day of skiing and inspired to record a podcast off the back of your recording with Mike Stenhouse.
Yes, off the back of my recording with Mike Stenhouse, which was such a great conversation around this whole travel lifestyle. Had a lot of people asking for more detail. I love that. More detail. Fantastic. Detail
You've just
Dave
really
strikes
turned
again.
Dave on.
Because of course Mike and I cover quite a few things around how the lifestyle works and how to make it work, but some more detail about how to actually make motorhoming a reality, because actually we hear a lot of people, when we tell them about what we're getting up to, how we live our lives, a lot of people saying, you are living my dream.
Yeah, it's my
Right?
dream to travel around Europe in a motorhome. Like, I want to do that maybe when I retire or one day. We hear that a lot, right? And so we thought we would illuminate the path to making that happen by having a conversation about the specifics about how you make it happen, how much it costs, how you do it, of course, whilst running and building a business. And so that is the topic of today, how to live a great life in a motorhome, travel
Working
Europe,
and travelling
working and travelling.
at the same time.
So what would you say, but where should we start this?
Okay, where do we start? So I guess the first thing I'd start on is the cost. The cost. I think it's the simplest thing. People can get their head around this, and then we'll work from there. So the cost. So I think for us, one of the biggest things that we found when moving to the motorhome was that we moved into a much cheaper lifestyle.
Yeah.
It was amazing, right? It was just like, well, we were already living a fairly cheap lifestyle in some ways, but then when we were in Margate, it felt like that was...
I guess we've, always had low overheads wherever
Yes.
we've been living. But I guess just the fact that you can have everything self-contained in a motorhome, and actually how little that costs. And that for me was just like such a, is dichotomy the right word? Just not unexpected, because some people are like, oh gosh, my dream to travel around in a motorhome. And then you're like, okay, but it's actually really cheap to travel around in a motorhome. So money can't be an object.
Money is absolutely not the problem. So let's go into that a little bit more. So finance-wise, we actually bought a motorhome that was around £54,000, I think. It was second-hand. We then had to do various works to get it working for us. So things that we had where we added on a bike rack on the back. We improved the leisure battery situation, added solar panels on the roof so that we could wild camp more. And not
Let's
always
talk
have
about
to
that
be
more in a bit, I reckon.
We'll cover that
Yep.
more in a bit. But we had to do that, and we
Improve the gas system, which we'll talk about.
improve the gas system. So we had various works. I probably overall we had another £3,000 that we added, plus another £3,000 that we did and got the garage to do, so that we could add them to the price of the motorhome when we're buying it.
Yep.
And then another £3,000 or so, £3,500 of work that we did on top of that, right?
Yeah, that sounds
But
about right.
what shocked us about buying the motorhome, it was totally like mind-blowing being in the property industry, literally having to deal with banks.
Well, they're basically like, you're just trying to get a buy-to-let mortgage with a first charge at 75% loan to value, and they're basically asking me for my bra size. Like, what the hell is wrong? And then you go and ask for motorhome finance, and we were like, I wonder what questions they're going to ask. Basically nothing.
They literally asked,
Maybe 5 questions.
yeah, like, how much do you earn? That was pretty much it,
Yeah.
right? How much do you earn? Where do you live? What's your address? It was a ridiculously small amount of questions on the phone.
And I think they were so confused at us, the dealership, because we were like not being just being like dubious about how long the finance would take, if they were going to have any follow-up questions. Is there going to be a valuation?
Yeah, we were really worried about it.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, just turn up, it's fine, just turn up. And it was all done through the dealership. Black Horse Finance, who we used, which is just who our dealership worked with. And we literally could have had, and this also blew our minds, could have had up to 100% finance.
On a vehicle that you can just drive off into the sunset in. That depreciates.
That depreciates in value. Although I have to say it hasn't depreciated because motorhomes have been so popular in the UK over the last few years.
Probably have. It's probably worth the same.
It's probably worth the same. But regardless, a vehicle is a depreciating asset, and yet you can get 100% finance with no questions asked, turn up and do an e-signature. All we had to show was a driver's license. Or something, and that was it. We signed away, and that we got 50 grand of loan.
I think we, didn't quite play our cards quite right, and we did 95% finance. So I think all in terms of hard cash down to buy this beast, 10 grand.
10 grand all in. So for us, but I think we could have done it less.
Yeah.
So that's the first start. You're in for 10 grand.
And the interest rate that we did it with 7.9%. Interest rate. They have gone up.
They've gone up. They're at about 9.9 at the moment because of economies, but they're still not bad actually. And then I think the way it works with the finance on motorhomes is it's generally a 10-year term, which has to be capital repayments. So that's it. 10-year term, capital repayments, and I think our payments were only £600 a month.
That's about right. Yeah, just a bit less.
I think if you were buying something nowadays, it'd probably be about £800 a month. The same thing.
Yep.
So it's very little, very low mortgage.
And for us, the type of van that we were... Oh, sorry, I'm digressing. You want to finish the money first. Continue.
So just a tip here, major tip, if you're doing this, I'd suggest going straight in and asking about 100% finance straight away and see if you can get that, because we didn't, and then we kind of got a bit late in the day for it. We'd already applied. And then the second tip was, when you're with the dealer, get as much added to the vehicle as possible before you sign your finance agreement, because most dealerships will probably do that and just add it to the price of the van, which means you can get it all added to your finance, which we were able to do for quite a lot. So
yeah, some things but not others.
Our dealership didn't, for example, deal with lithium batteries, which is something we added on our leisure, so we had to do it elsewhere. So yeah, that was a great tip because that got extra saved us 3 grand of hard cash on day one. And then actually, so if we're in for our kind of 800 quid, which was like a phone call and a signature to get sorted for our mortgage, as it were. Then we go on to the other costs of living, £800 a month for that. We got our insurance, which is basically like a car insurance. And
it's about 50 quid a month.
50 quid a month.
We had to do shop around a bit because there was some ridiculous quotes that we got, but in the end we settled on an insurer called Comfort, which is a reasonable.
Comfort, very good insurer.
And allowing plenty of days in Europe, because a lot of them don't allow many days in Europe.
Yeah, a lot of them restrict the amount of travel time out of the UK, whereas Comfort were like, all year. You can be out of the UK all year if you want. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
So that was 50 quid a month for that. We got, LPG. We're on an LPG system, which is really, it's just a very cheap system to run.
Should we come back to what that is?
And we'll come back to how that works, but that pretty much costs us maybe on average 50 quid a month. In the summer it's way less. In the winter it's more. But yeah, roughly 50 quid a month. You spend 50 quid a month or so servicing and MOT, that comes to about £600 a year or so. Basically all in, we're at about £1,200 to £1,300 for our living, which is amazing. And we love it. So and you can be anywhere. So yeah, if you're thinking you could do this alongside your home or flat, that's kind of probably where you're going to be at. You could be in for £1,200 to £1,300. Actually, that hasn't included, the £1,200 to £1,300 includes campsites.
Yes.
Now, we decked ours out so that we could wild camp as much as possible. And that meant getting extra powerful battery put in and more solars on the roof. So I think that system cost us £2.5 grand to put in place. 2,500 pounds, and that was the thing we couldn't do at our dealership. But there were other dealerships we could have done that at, and we could have added it to the purchase price. But 2.5 to 3 grand to do our solar panel system, and that has meant that we could spend nearly all our time not in campsites on that system. It's harder in the winter.
Yes.
Right. So that is then with campsites, we generally spend maybe, you could.
I feel like we're doing an overview summary of the finances here. I think there's quite a lot of different areas that we've got to cover after this financial summary.
Okay. Basically, that's it. We allowance of say £300 a month for campsites.
Sure.
Done.
Which could actually be quite a large amount.
Could be, yeah. Okay, cool. So £1,200 to £1,300.
And that all came to how much? That's £1,200 a month.
That's why I was doing the campsite thing,
yeah.
so that people can understand that number. Without the campsites, it's like £900 a month, £900 to £1,000 a month overhead to own the thing.
Okay, so we get out the equation there. The money to do this, not the issue.
Not the issue at all.
So because I think we've been doing summers in this and also winters in this, and the logistics of that are important in terms of the van that you get. So we are travelling around in a brand that's called a Börsner. Which is a German-made vehicle. Now, for us, we are currently away skiing, as I've said. So actually being able to be in the minus numbers, if you're wanting to get an English or British-made motorhome, not going to work. So you want to get something that's actually insulated in terms of where the wastewater tank is,
where the water pipes are.
Yes.
Basically the English models and the French, most of the European ones that aren't German, from what I can research has told me, don't put the pipes in the right place to make sure they don't freeze in the cold temperatures, whereas the Germans automatically do that. They call it winterized, but there's no specific spec that winterized counts for. But everything we research is basically, if you want to do minus numbers, get a German motorhome. Very simple.
We're in what's called an air in the French Alps at the moment with loads of other motorhomes, and there are other brands that aren't German,
Right,
but they are not British.
They're not British. No, no, that's true. I've never seen a British motorhome in the snow.
So that was one of the things that for us actually ended up pushing up the price quite a bit. I remember when we were first looking, we were like, oh, maybe we could get something for 30 grand. And then as we started to realise we wanted to be able to ski in it, and it had to be winterised, so insulation, pipes in the right place, etc. We ended up probably putting 15 grand odd on the price tag. So to be able to come out and ski in the thing, what else have we had to consider?
Oh gosh, no, I don't know. What do you mean?
Like, what else have we got to have on this vehicle? So, like, for example, like winter, like all season tyres, for example.
Oh yes, all season tyres and snow chains. Apart from that, not a lot in a Börsner, right?
No, that's true.
That's why I couldn't answer your question, because actually, with a German-made van, you're pretty set. We did get a heat probe put into our wastewater tank so that we could make sure that stayed warm enough.
Because otherwise it freezes and you can't get it out. Although actually we still find that ours does actually freeze sometimes.
Yeah. I've been under there with a hairdryer before.
Maybe I'll find a photo to attach to that. That was quite funny. Just seeing Dave's legs outside the van. So that was one of the reasons that we chose this van. And then some of the other things that we had to get installed then in terms of this off-grid. Because for us, this off-grid ability with the motorhome has been the most amazing part of it, because particularly if you're in England and you look at some of the campsites in England, it is regimented parking on concrete with the occasional tree. It's really not what you're kind of looking for if you're wanting to be travelling around experiencing nature, etc. And for us being able to be off grid and to park in places where you are the only person and you're parking, I'm not even talking about England here, but you're parking by like an amazing lake, or for us, we've parked up in some amazing ski resorts where there's no services and you can just park up free range, it's just you. That's been like the best part of this.
It's been unbelievable. It's like that feeling of freedom that we get from living in the motorhome, that feeling of you can be anywhere, it kind of really opens you up. And that it's magnified like tenfold if you can just park up anywhere in the world and just park up and stay. And I think some of the places we've stayed off grid have been like utterly magical. And you just suddenly you just wander off the road, off the beaten track into some incredible location. You're like, oh, this is nice. Let's hang here for a few days. Unbelievable, right? It just makes you, and then you're doing work from it, taking calls, just going, oh my God, I'm
in the middle of the desert.
in the middle of nowhere. And I'm just running my business, having nice meals. It's incredible. That has been a really freeing experience.
So that is a very important thing. Like if you have only got a vehicle that has to be hooked up and in a campsite, for us, that isn't it.
It's a no-go.
That's so far from it.
Yeah.
It is a dot to us.
You can't live life like that. No.
So what is that technical setup that we've had to have put in place to make that possible?
So the difference between our old-fashioned lead acid batteries that all cars had, and what you can get nowadays, which is what you have in your phone called a lithium battery, is that a lithium battery for the same kind of size of space it takes is 3 times as powerful. 3 times as powerful as lead acid. And whereas a lead acid you can only use up to about 50% of the charge, the lithium you can go down to the bottom of the charge. So you've got much more capacity even in that. So the van came with one lead acid leisure battery, the leisure battery being the thing that fuels all of the lights and heating and whatever. We exchanged that for 2 lithium batteries. The ones we got 105 amp hour batteries, and that they were £1,200 for the 2 batteries, and then we got that installed by a guy. I think he charged us about £800 to install it, and then he ran that and connected it to 3 solar panels on the roof, and that's 300 watts of solar panel we have on our roof, which is about the most. We can fit 400 watts on our roof, and we do have 400 watts on the roof, but one of them is linked to our car battery to make sure that doesn't go dead. So 300 watts of solar panels, which are very cheap as well. They cost about 80 quid a panel. So that's where the kind of 2.5 grand came in. But yeah, it's this lithium battery is the key, because that means you have enough juice to keep you going, and in the summer you will never have to plug in. You just don't have to. In the winter you probably will have to plug in occasionally.
Well, basically they say that you should maybe plug in every month or something, because it just, it all gets a bit technical, but it does something good to help them to do something.
And the other thing in the winter, the reason in the winter you might have to plug in is if you want to stay in one place, because the other thing is you charge up your battery when you drive. So if you're driving around every 3 days or so, then you won't have to plug in. But if you want to sit in a campsite or in the woods or whatever for 5 days, 7 days, then you probably will need to plug in, because there's not enough sun to keep you charged.
And so we got a high-speed battery-to-battery charger for when we were off-grid in the winter season, so that you could turn the engine on for 20 minutes and it charged up the batteries. And so really in the winter, you've got lights. Obviously, you're charging laptops and Wi-Fi routers, running the heating, hot water, fridge, all of these things.
Yes, laptops. You just reminded me. Another thing that I had to get my head around, inverters.
Ah, yes.
They've been a joy. So obviously a battery is running off 12 volt. It's a 12 volt supply, whereas our home supply is a 240 volt supply. And so if you can't plug your laptops directly into a car battery or into a leisure battery. They're the same thing. So you need a thing that converts it from 12 volt power to 240 volt power. And this thing is called an inverter. So we have what's a 1500 watt inverter. And one of the major bits of understanding we had to go through and learning was that every device you have has a amount of wattage that it works through. So things that have heating elements tend to have a much higher wattage. So for example, a hairdryer normally has 1800 watt power. Now what your inverter power has to do is what they say is it has to be twice the amount of any individual item you want to use. So if you've got a 1500 watt inverter, the max wattage on an item you can use is around 750, 800 watt item. So you just have to be really aware of this. And if you're gonna be wanting to use something that's got more like 1000 watts or 1200 watts as its powering system, which you can read on the labels of any electrical item, so you can check your hair dryers and your hair straighteners.
I had to get a cheaper hairdryer. My Dyson was not permitted.
Then you just have to know, because you can get 2000 watt inverters, 2500 watt inverters. You can get more powerful ones. So that's just something that we had to learn.
But they're bigger, and there's other disadvantages to having bigger ones that you don't need.
Yeah, the higher power inverter is that it actually takes more power from your batteries. So the bigger your inverter, the more you're draining your batteries just by having it turned on, which we don't want, because you want the batteries to last as long as possible. So it really is a thing. So heating elements means we don't have a kettle.
Yep.
For example, it's too high power.
We have a gas.
We have a gas kettle. We always work the kettle off the stove. You don't have a toaster. Things like this, just that have a heating element.
But instead, you can have a pizza oven.
Anything that works off gas, great.
So yeah, I had to downgrade my hairdryer to be I can't remember, is it 700 watt hairdryer?
Yes.
700 watt hairdryer, and my straighteners are absolutely fine. I mean, all of these people, when we were trying to get this all sorted, were so, what would be the word? looking down their noses at me saying I wanted to be able to use my hairdryer and straighteners in the van like I was a crazy woman. It's absolutely fine. I just couldn't use my Dyson hairdryer in this van when off the grid. When on a campsite and you're plugged in, you could, but... and then we've got our NutriBullet we use for our smoothies and our bulletproof coffees.
Our NutriBullet is 600 watts, so no problem on a 1.5, I don't know, kilowatt, I don't know, 1500 watts.
And then, obviously, and when we're skiing, my feet get really cold when we're skiing, so we have many heating devices to help my feet stay warm. And all of that is going on under the table here with our ski boots. I've got a little heating device in there like you'd have in a chalet where you hang them on the wall, but it's just a bit dinkier. So all that works.
Yeah.
So that is the
electrical setup.
So that's a really important part of just the complete freedom. And literally in the summer, we do not think about electric whatsoever. We're just making plenty of our own. In the winter, we have to start to become a little bit more intentional about how much we are using if we aren't on hookup.
It's not hard though, is it? Just to be a bit more careful, that's it.
So that's one really important thing. The other really important thing that we've had in terms of travelling around Europe is the gas setup.
Yes.
So every different country has different kinds of gas bottles. So if you are wanting to travel easily between France, Spain, Italy, you would have to be changing your gas bottles. Really inconvenient. So we've got this system installed that's called Gaslo, Gaslo. I don't think there's a W on the end.
Might be, maybe not.
There might not be a W on the end of that. So it's 2 10-kilogram gas bottles.
11 kilogram.
That you can, there's like a different, they're in like a little cabinet in the outside, and then there's like a different adapter that you put on the outside when you're at the petrol station.
Yes, so basically, instead of having to change the gas bottle itself, we're able to fill up at a petrol station. Now there's not every single petrol station, not every single petrol station has LPG as a thing, but we've got an app called mygpl.eu. Brilliant little app. It literally shows every single petrol station with gas, with LPG. And so you pop in there, you can literally just hook it straight in, and different countries have different external adapters, and that's what the Gaslo system is. What it does is it's the gas bottles are the same as any gas bottle. It's the connector. They literally connect it up so that it has an external access point, and that external access point is where you fill up. And that external access point also has different adapters for each country, and it's very simple. And there's actually many petrol stations that, for example, wouldn't let, if you could somehow directly fill the gas bottle itself, the petrol station won't let you do it. They need you to have an external access point to it. So that's been essential. And now I don't even know how you would swap out gas bottles in different countries. We've never had to do it, but I don't think they'd accept your gas bottles.
Yeah, you're going to be carrying multiple gas bottles around.
So you have to find places where either have multiple gas bottles or places where you can have an adapter on the gas bottle and they will fill it for you. It's just a nightmare. So this is an essential. The Gaslo system only cost us £800 to install. That is for everything, to put the gas bottles in there, to do the installation. It's very simple, and that is it's just game changer and necessary for wild camping. And when we are wild camping, the gas is doing the hob, the fridge, and the heating and hot water. Yeah. That's running all of those. Now, there are other systems that you can use, like I'm hearing, like you can get diesel systems. You could potentially go, I mean, it's not going to be good in the winter, like you can't just do all electric, you just would need so much solar and so much batteries. So that's been our setup to make all of that possible. And then the gas in the summer lasts us 5 to 6 weeks when we filled it up. In the winter, it lasts us more like 10 days. Yes, and that is... It's about £1 a litre generally. 10 days is 40 quid. 40 quid for 10 days. In the winter, so more expensive then, but in the summer it just goes forever. It's ridiculously cheap, yeah. Because basically you want a cold shower in the summer anyway. Yeah. So, and then in terms of like the other logistics of wild camping, the other things that we had to become more intentional about are like the water. You've got like services. Water, yeah. And this is one of the other reasons that being outside of the UK in terms of touring is so much better, because in the UK it's basically like you can get services in a campsite or you don't get services. It's very rare anywhere. So on the continent they just have these, like, you know, particularly like France, Italy, Spain. Those are the main ones. Those are the main ones. I think some Germany of the Northern Europe ones are good too, but we haven't really done them yet. Like you literally pull up to a service station and there is the ability to empty your loo,
to fill up fresh water and to empty grey water.
Yeah, your services are there, just
And it's
free.
free.
Or sometimes they
Might
charge
be a
you
euro.
€2. Yeah. It's ridiculously convenient compared to the UK, where you have to stay the night in a campsite for 30
€30. Pounds, yes, pounds.
It's really. So that's another reason we like to be on the continent. So staying, where to stay? We have this unbelievable. We tried quite a few apps before we found this one, but there's one app that is the app of all apps for wild camping and for also knowing where the services are. It's called Park for Night. Park for Night. That app, and it's with a 4, an actual 4, not the full letters of 4. So Park for Night, it just has everything. So, and that led us to some amazing destinations. That's the one where we'll literally just choose this incredible place in the middle of nowhere, and someone else has been there before, they've taken the photos, you've got reviews of it, and you look at it and go, oh yeah, okay, that looks good. Oh, lots of 5-star reviews, let's go check that out. And that is the only way we felt confident enough to venture off into the wilds.
Yeah, we're generally not the ones, because if you find places, you can add them to this. We're generally not the innovators finding these places. We're not the trailblazers. We are following the trail of people who've added these things. And it's true, yeah, you can just, the places that we've turned up to, and it's just like you in the woods with this amazing view, nothingness.
So good.
It's just stunning. So maybe some of the highlights in terms of places that we found and stayed at.
Yeah, okay. So I think some of the best places were in Greece. When we went to Greece, we went off season, so we went in October, November time, and you were able to just drive up basically onto a beach. And obviously you didn't go on the sand because you wouldn't have got off it again. But we literally drove up onto the curb right next to a beach, and we were able to eat our dinner, cook our dinner, and go and sit on a beach right next to the sea with no one around. That one was incredible. Greece had quite a lot of places like that where your just view of the sea was incredible. We had one in Spain where we were, like you said, in the middle of the desert, in a place where they used to film the old westerns, apparently. Not in America, they filmed them in Spain. Halfway between Barcelona and Zaragoza, there is a stretch of land which is incredible, and if you just drive half an hour off the main road that goes between those, you can be in beautiful desert locations. Any others for you?
I think for me, some of the skiing locations, whilst not as glamorous, were just blows my mind in terms of skiing can be a pricey holiday, and actually some of the places that we were going, you're literally parking next to the lift for free. That just blew my mind.
Yep.
And that's it. And you could just, stay there probably 4 nights until we'd have to go and deal with services again.
Yep.
But that's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I think also some of the places that we've stayed at in France, there was one that I remember that was literally right next to a river. Actually, a few that have been right next to a river. Right next to a river. You're literally parked up where if you look out the window, it feels like you're on the river.
Yes.
Yeah, for me, those ones have been really special. And then I guess just for me, that general tour that we did from Croatia through Bosnia, Serbia, Bulgaria to get to Greece. All of that is not so geared up for motorhomes. Particularly when we got to Bulgaria, finding services was a bit more few and far between. But it felt like it was so much of the time just us on our own in a random place, meeting amazing people. Yeah. And that was 3 months doing all of that.
Yeah, amazing.
And then I'm staying in that guy's back garden. We had to pay for that, to be fair. That was £10 a night. We were staying in this guy's back garden. He had this massive lake that he was backing onto. It was just stunning. It's just you.
Yeah. It's a good life. It's a good life, everyone. If you was thinking you wanted to do it, you do want to do it.
You do want to do it.
You do. It's better than you can imagine. Because it wasn't even a dream of ours. It was just an idea, but it is so much better than we ever imagined. So let's move on. Internet.
Yeah.
Internet. We have to work. We have to make sure we have internet all the time. So that's been a one for us. We actually have a very simple, we started off with a very simple method, which is called a MiFi. Actually, I'll just grab it. For anyone watching the video of this, it's this big. Anyone not, it's about the size of my palm. So a MiFi, which basically you just shove a SIM card into, and then it acts as your internet. So that's been really good, and it's got a much better signal than your phone does, much better ability to get signal. We then decided to upgrade that, and we went for a more powerful thing that has an antenna on the roof, so we could catch more signal. And that cost about £900 to install. It's a thing called MaxView Roam, and that's basically exactly the same. You put a SIM card in it. It just has a very powerful antenna that we installed that is installed onto the roof, and it's just a Wi-Fi. It gives you a Wi-Fi zone in and around your motorhome. So our max view, I think we're up to 30 feet outside of the motorhome. We're still on the Wi-Fi. We can still use that Wi-Fi. There is a thing called Skylink, which is satellites. And we only didn't do it because you actually have to have a clear view of the sky, and you actually have to get your satellite. If you don't, you have to go out and put this satellite somewhere that has a clear view of the sky. But I do think that has the best signal possible of everything. So I wouldn't say no to that. It's just we thought it'd be a bit inconvenient, really. Anything else you'd say?
And I think for us, it's one of the first things that we have to check if we've got a day of meetings that we've got to do. We park up, we get our speed checker app to check the upload and download speeds to just make sure whatever we've chosen is viable. Sometimes, it's not often, a handful of times we turned up somewhere and there's literally no signal. And we don't have to have much signal to make it viable. I mean, when we were in the Maldives, we were living, reasonably okay on like 2 megs. Like, it's not great, but you can make it work. Yeah. And then we have to move on and find another place. So that does sometimes happen. And we have a few different SIM cards that we have, that all of these different devices use SIM cards. And it also it boosts up your chance that maybe EE has no signal, but O2 has signal. So that's been...
So our main SIM that is unlimited anywhere in Europe and a bit beyond that as well is EE. And whenever they don't have signal, I've got Vodafone, Jackie's got O2. We go to those, find one, and usually one of them has signal. And it's just the only difference is for Jackie and I, we have a fair usage policy on ours. So it's up to 25 gigs in a month before they get upset with you. But we met someone the other day who had a dongle that they bought. It was costing them €59 a month. And that literally was unlimited anywhere. And it sought out the best network in the area. So it covered all. And that was clearly, I can't remember the name of it, but that was really good. There are options like that.
So that's obviously very important for working in the van. Another thing that's very important in terms of layout of the motorhome for working in the van is the van has a door between the bedroom area and the living area. So the door can close and one of us can go into meeting room 1, aka the bedroom area, and the other person can be in meeting room 2, aka the living room area. And that combined with headphones, so I use AirPods and I often will face the opposite direction. So if Dave is down one side talking in one direction, I'll put my back to him and talk in the other direction. You have some Bose headphones, which is noise cancelling. Although I think I need those more than you do because you are really loud.
Sorry about that. But in theory, there is no problem, even with your AirPods, right?
No, it's fine.
You can still have meetings, you can still do all your work. There's no problem to my boomy voice.
No, there is none.
So yeah, that was a key layout component for us. Have a door between the two areas so we could both work. And then anything else for the working, because that brings us to our work setup. How do we fit work in with this lifestyle? Because I think I met someone the other day saying they just find it really hard, like traveling lots and then working and kind of compartmentalising.
Someone else who has a motorhome too.
Yes, someone else who had so what would you say our typical week is?
I think first of all the thing to say is the motorhome is very good at getting you to enjoy the journey. Like, you have to enjoy the journey. It's not about the destination. So therefore, it's not about travelling hundreds of miles every day, particularly not a day if you weren't planning to work. It's more about combining the two. So for us on a typical week, we won't have meetings on Friday, Saturday, Sunday or Monday.
Although we do sometimes.
But it's not normal.
It's the aim not to.
And so really the main sort of meeting days would be
Tuesday, Wednesday,
Thursday. And on those days, generally we'll start meetings a bit later in the day. So we have still got the morning to be able to actually move to somewhere else.
Yeah, if we want to.
If we were going to move on one of those days, then it's maybe an hour maximum.
Max. Yeah, sometimes just 20 minutes, half an hour away, just so we're kind of heading in the right direction to wherever our end destination is. It's just, I'll do another 20 minutes today. And then we get up the app and it just literally, where should we go tomorrow? And then you just look on the app and then choose your next place. It's just day by day movement around the country or wherever you are. And I think that freedom is great because you just feel completely free, but you don't tax yourself with travel on work days. You don't sit there saying, we need to get 3 hours further down the road when you've got a work day. You just plan your week accordingly.
Yeah, that is important to have the space to do it and the time to do it. And where's my brain gone? No, I've lost it.
travel, typical work day. Well, probably the end of a long ski day here. Brain's not working anymore.
So maybe then what's some of the downsides of the moho life?
Downsides, not a lot of space.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one actually, because it's true. We are, how many square metres are we in this vehicle?
I think it's about 7 by 2, so 14, 15 square metres.
14, 15 square metres. So it is a small space. So it is important that you have access to the outside world. Like this whole idea that the world is your garden is very important, which is another reason why England in December is not really where you want to be in the motorhome.
No.
Or January, like it's...
Any cold, wet month in England, not a good time for the motorhome.
Not great. So you want to be, places where you can extend the summer months into the winter. And for us then, coming skiing means, yes, it's a small space, but ultimately you get out there and you ski and you're in the mountains. And so that's really important. Like you don't just want to be in here all the time.
It's actually not much smaller than a standard tiny ski chalet either. I think we've stayed in 15 square metre ski chalets, to be fair. But yeah, that is amazing. You just go, when you're outside, you're in the snow and it's incredible. And when you're inside, you want to be cosy. You want it to be warm and small because it's kind of nice. It's like a cute little home to go back to. So yeah, that's true. And just being really clever about that. So in the summer, the reason we were in Greece around October, November time was because we'd chased the sun. So we just slowly headed over that way and were always following the sun, and keeping a similar warmth all the way, wasn't it? Just as we travelled through Italy, Croatia, Bosnia, Bulgaria, it was just always constantly the same temperature, even though time was going onwards. And the rain never got us. It was great. And
then another reason for going to that part of the world was the Schengen zone. So since Brexit, if you don't already know this, the UK is not part of the Schengen zone anymore, which basically means Europe, which means there is a 90-day limit for how long we can spend in most of Europe, the Schengen zone. And it's like done on a rolling basis. So they say in the last 180 days, you cannot spend more than 90 days in the Schengen zone. Now, there are some countries that aren't in the Schengen zone. For example, Bulgaria.
Bosnia.
Bosnia.
Yeah.
Serbia.
Used to be Croatia, but that's not the case anymore. But yeah, a few around there. I can't think of any more right now.
Cyprus. Not that you can easily get there in motorhome. Anyway, so that is another thing you've got to be aware of when travelling around Europe. So being strategic about that. Maybe we'll put a link to the calculator we made for that. 'Cause it's actually really hard to calculate your days proactively in that area. So that was one thing I was going to say. And then the thing is okay, obviously we've got a whole property company back in the UK. That's probably the other objection that people have. How do I keep things going?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a big part of what you've heard us talk in other episodes about focus and getting one clear business model and actually making sure that you're not doing too many different things. This is literally the key.
It's the foundation.
It's the foundation to being able to get to this kind of life where you're able to free yourself from the business entirely as soon as possible. And I think that's the reason, it was the thing that got us there quickly. We did it through business strategy, but then it's the thing we try and teach all of our mentees, right? It's just trying to get them to realise that the more focused you are and the more clear you are with what you're doing, specifically what you're doing, and grow that one little thing, the easier it is to systemise, the quicker it is to get out of it. And we just did that very quickly, right? So we just found ways to always make it so that we didn't have to be the ones doing it. We didn't have to be the ones on the ground. So everything that we have to do can be done through the internet, through the laptops, and we never actually have to be there. Now, and one area that people say logistically is a problem, becomes a problem in their minds, is things like post, right? So post, let's just talk about that. That's just a beautiful thing, right? We just have a redirect on any address.
Before you go to that.
Okay.
Virtual office is the first thing to say. Somewhere that you use as your business address for all your posts to go to. Quite often if you, accountants sometimes do it, so there's an extra fee that you can use them as your business address. It's quite good because it means that your home address doesn't end up on publicly seen documents, for example. So it's called a virtual office. Some accountants do it, but if you Googled virtual office, you just want to find somewhere close to where you live, and you can put that on all of your postage address. Your post goes there, and then they can open your post, scan stuff in for you, and then for us, they email it over to us.
Literally email it over. The reason I was saying the redirect is because there's some people who refuse to send to a place that is not your home address.
Yeah.
So I think our credit cards, for example, some of our bank statements, some of our mortgage statements refuse to go to the virtual office. And in that case, we just have a redirect on so that anything that is insisting on going to the home address is automatically redirected to the virtual office, scanned in, emailed to us.
And so that means all that stuff can keep going.
Yep.
I'm sure we've spoken about the mini printer before, but obviously the mini printer is in this van. So if we have to print documents for what are the ones they always want us to?
Mortgage offers,
whatever you have to do with a pen, you can do that. Find a nice post office, post it back. Like, all of it is totally overcomeable. I think that it's just this, if there's too many different things going on and only you know how it all works, that's what chains you to it. So if you haven't listened to some of the earlier episodes that Dave and I have covered about like the strategy behind it, that's where this all comes from. And I think it was great. Like, I think actually it was Nisha and Jazz actually. If you haven't listened to their episode on working with your life partner, do. It's a really good one. They've done a great job of following the process that we've set out for building a property company, and it's just really serving them. And I can't remember when it was, but at a certain point they started saying, okay, so now we want to know how we go on holiday every 6 weeks. And so we had a session on it, and they were like, oh right, well that's all really easy. And I was like, yeah, because we've been training you, all the stuff that seems like it's nothing to do with going on holiday every 6 weeks, it is, because that's the foundation of structure, of focus, of being able to delegate and pass over to other people. That means you've got the freedom to do it.
Yeah.
So, where to end this? Darling?
Yeah, I remember the Mike Stenhouse episode. If you haven't watched that, he's in his boat. We're in our motorhome, so we talk about the pros and cons of those. But he had made a very clear point about it's so doable, and he's done it in a boat. We're doing it in a motorhome. It's so doable. Kids might be a blocker for you. Now, we haven't had kids, so we can't really. It'd be a bit like a man talking about how hard it is to have be in labour. You know, it's just something we can't really talk about. But we see people with kids in motorhomes quite a lot, so it's doable, right? It's totally doable. It's just what problems you need to solve, and the main issue is not logistics. It's mindset. That's what Mike said as well, right? It's just like, no, if you want to do it, just do it. Just work out how. Just do it. It's not rocket science. Just do it. So that would be. I definitely reiterate that on this one. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that. I mean, hopefully this is it's got given a lot of practicalities here. So those of you who are sitting there thinking that you might want to actually do this, hopefully that puts a few more ideas into your head about how this is actually working for us in a very simple way. And
if you're thinking like financially, we started there, if we're talking about £1,200 a month all in, pretty much, not including petrol, to be fair, but all in, then, we turned it into pretty much a full-time place that we could live. And then we do have a place in the UK that is our home, but it's just a very, very low rent.
Yeah.
We just found a place that's really cheap to maintain in the UK, so we're still keeping our overheads really low. And we have to have a home in the UK based there for mortgage purposes as well. But that means we do have a place, but we didn't focus on that being a home. This is our home. And that place we just got super cheap, super low rent, really simple. And that's, it solves it. So you can still keep, even with a place in the UK, you can still keep that cost ultra low.
So I would ask you, what is the thing, if this is something that you're saying that you want to do, what is the excuse that you're telling yourself now, having heard this episode, having heard Dave and Mike's episode? And then I would question yourself, whatever answer you give to that, just get below that try and get closer to the root cause of it, because actually there's always a reason around it. And if it's truly a dream that you've got, you can make it happen, but you will find post-rationalizations of why you can't do it.
Yeah. And what about working with your partner in such close proximity?
Oh, he's so annoying, isn't he?
I would say that it's only made our relationship stronger. Yeah, having to learn how to be around each other in such close proximity, it was like a nice advancement and evolution of us, and it brings up things that you then deal with in a lovely way, and it actually makes it even better. So I would say if you're serious about your loved one and want to have a great life together, an amazing life together, this could be the next evolution. This could be the next method used to help you evolve to an even better relationship. Because I think that's what it's done for us.
And on that bombshell, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on this latest episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please do give us a review and a 5-star rating if you're loving listening to this. We'd really appreciate it. And any feedback that you have about how the show and any other requests for episodes that you would like us to record, we would really love to hear from you. So that's it for this week. Until the same time next week, make sure you're really focused on the life that you're really trying to create from property, what that freedom looks like to you, and making sure that you're staying focused on building a business that will help to make that a reality for you. Have a fantastic week ahead and loads of love.